right.
All right. So we're going to start off by you just saying your name and what's your role here at the YMCA.
I am Michelle Diamanti. I am the program director for the Childcare Department at the YMCA here in Kingston.
And so what are you in charge of here at the Y?
Well, I am in charge of managing all 11 before and after school sites here in Ulster County. We serve the Kingston School District, Ellenville School District, Rondout Valley, Marlborough, Highland, and New Paltz school districts here in Ulster County. And we provide parents and the kids with services, with enrichment programs after school or before school, depending on what the needs of the family are. And I'm in charge of 65 lovely staff members who actually make this all happen, because we can't do our jobs without the support of all the group teachers and the assistant group teachers here and our site directors and site supervisors here at the Y.
And about how many children do you have in your program?
We have about 350 students we serve here in Ulster County.
And what are your thoughts about the child care shortage in Ulster County?
I think it's a very complex issue in the county and even nationwide. I think some of it stems from it's a very low paying job versus like being in a teaching position at a public school. So I think that contributes to part of it. I think another issue that also contributes to it is the redundancy in regulations. With here in New York, we have OCFS and also the Department of Education. There's a lot of overlap with background checks for staff and requirements for sites that I feel like is a little hiccup. Also, too, just what New York State says are the basic requirements for a child care worker. Versus what the pay is. Like it does, you're requiring staff to have experience in training, and $16 an hour doesn't offset somebody to have those expertise. So I think that's a huge challenge as somebody who tries to employ childcare support.
Have you spoken to families that are in need of childcare in the community?
That's an everyday conversation with families from not just school age, but also there's a huge need for infant and toddler childcare here in Ulster County. And I just think it's a whole thing of again, difficulties with getting a license permit. Cost to families is a huge thing, and that has to do a lot with labor costs, liability costs, maintaining facilities and program fees. So it's more complicated than just salaries and stuff for sites.
Since you don't serve toddlers and infants at this time, what do you suggest to those families that are looking for that care in the county? Like, do you refer them to any other type of organization for assistance?
We do. I always tell them to call Family of Woodstock, Family of Ellenville, depending on where they're located. We also have a lot of people who work for us who've worked for other daycares. We've also used them as references for them to call. You can go on the OCFS website to see what availability is and finding licensed programs in the area. I also recommend people to widen their scope, not just to centers, but there's also family group and other ways families and parents can get care for their toddlers and infants.
Do you think the county executives how do you think they could better improve the situation of the child care crisis?
I think for the county, at the county level, again, it's a very complex issue. I think providing resources through subsidies, either funding for the provider to offset the costs, or change regulations or policies, would be a thing, with subsidies too. This is not at the county level, but the state had grants available to help providers with offsetting the cost of training, and also providing us with funding to give staff bonuses and raises and things like that. I think that's really something that needs to happen, or continue to happen as the provider seat, for the families. I think having better subsidies and resources, and even having more social workers available to get parents those resources, so like if they have a child that needs assistance, providing the funding and funding to get more social workers, salaries and stuff like that, to provide funding to families and services.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.